Good morning, Carrie. How
Good
are you?
morning. Oh, just doing great. Beautiful Wednesday here. How about you?
Pretty great. I got a pretty nice view today. It's nice and uh sunshiny and green, so
We'll take
loving
it.
that.
I know
Thank you,
all that.
rain.
Yes, all that rain helped so much. It's amazing how quickly it turned green.
Yes. Well, I'm super excited to be back on 10 to 10, 10 at 10 again this week. Yeah, I was last week, Karina and I were chatting about PMAX campaigns. So yeah, excited to kind of get into the GA4 event tracking this week.
Me too. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Yeah.
Everybody, welcome to the 10 at 10. My name's Carrie. I'm the account manager at Key Media Solutions. And today we're going to be talking about, like Hannah said, something a lot of marketers do wrestle with, which is making GA4 actually work for you. So we're focusing on events, what to track, how to set them up, and how to make that data useful. And Hannah here is our wonderful ad ops manager, and she's here to give us some tips today and tricks. But before we kick it off, Hannah, can you tell us about your experience with Google Analytics?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to talk about analytics just because it's basically been a tool that I've used since day one in my career. In the universal analytic days, that was the tool that I became familiar with, and you could essentially navigate to about anything within 20 seconds in the universal analytics. However, since they've updated to that new version, as you know, that all abruptly changed. Data is much harder to find, to drill down to, and we found that even not all the data is there like it used to be. There's some certain settings that you have to turn on to make sure that that data is all tracking. I do think a lot of the sentiment when we switched was okay, how do we make GA4 work just like Universal Analytics worked for us? Well, I'm here today to say it doesn't. There's not a perfect correlation. There are certain setup things that you can do, but the idea of GI4 is that it is meant to work differently because it is event-based tracking, user-based tracking. So kind of the evolution of analytics has been really awesome to see. A lot of marketers have had to change their mindset, but like you said, Carrie, a lot have struggled with GA4 and getting it set up in ways that it actually works for people. So yeah, that's kind of excited what I'm excited to jump in and get into today.
Yes, I am also excited to always learn because you guys are always in the background and doing all these amazing things with it.
Yeah.
So one of the major things about GA4 is that it tracks a lot by
hmm
default.
hmm
Why do we bother setting up events manually?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So, like I mentioned, it is very event based, and it does set up a lot by default. So things like page views, scrolls, even file downloads, sometimes are an automatic event that all you need to do is go into your account and toggle it on. But we've found that it's not always that easy. Things like form submissions, button clicks, video views, that takes just a little bit more additional setup, but it's not hard. It's just knowing these little tricks that will help you.
Awesome. So how should someone decide what they need to track as an event?
Right? Yeah, that's always the question from the clients. Sometimes you'll get a client that says, track everything, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. I love data too. You don't have to tell me that. But I think that marketers should really look at it from a stance of what questions are you trying to answer. So if your business is focused on lead generation, you should be tracking form interactions, right? Uh, Email clicks, phone call clicks, things like that that are leading to lead generation. Now, if you're looking at engagement or people to just simply more brand awareness about a topic or even a product, you might want to look more at scroll depth. How far down on the page are people making it? Or you might want to potentially look at some video views. If you have videos on those pages, you can track how long they watched a video, or even if they watched it 100%. So, kind of a good rule of thumb that I like to use as a tip is that if the data won't impact a marketing decision or an action, don't bother tracking it, right? If you're not going to use that data to turn around and make a decision, there's probably no point in tracking it. Yes, it's nice to pull every now and then, but realistically, how often are you looking at all that data? You don't need to go through all of the work to set up all the events on your website. Try to really find those events that matter the most to you.
That's a very, very good point.
Yes.
Another thing, what's the best way that you think to actually set up those events?
Yeah. So we all kind of have our different approaches to this, but the one that we have found that has worked the best for us is by using custom dimensions. If you look back in some of our previous keynotes, we've talked quite a bit about custom dimensions, but really that's our first step. Of course, after we've verified that analytics is set up correctly and configured correctly, then we would go into our first step of setting up these custom dimensions. And when I say that, this gives us we have a standard set of dimensions that we use. It's kind of a templated thing. We put all of these in there. This contains things like form ID, page locations, link URLs. So the reason we do that, we're building these dimensions into analytics. And basically that's giving us the ability to apply these dimensions throughout various reports and charts in analytics. Because as you know, you want to see which event fired, but you can't always see then which campaign it came from. In the GA4 setup, it's a lot more difficult to kind of combine your data together. Well, these custom dimensions kind of helps bridge that gap. You can then apply these dimensions throughout analytics and pull that data in. So things like page location, if you're looking at where a click happened, you can see the page location. If you're looking at a form submission, you can apply the form ID to see which form is firing. That said, all these dimensions give you the ability then to go up in and set up events with these conditions. So a great example I'm always going to use is a contact form submission. So you would set up an event that event name equals form submission, add an additional condition to that saying that you want it to fire on page location contact. There's your event. So by using that combination of those dimensions, you can set up these events with the data that you already have, right? And that's kind of where I go back and say, this is easy. Those are kind of your easy steps.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that list, feel free to shoot us a message. We're happy to send over, our tried and true custom dimensions list that we use in our setup. And that's what's really helped us set up those events. But of course, when you hit a wall, not everything will be tracked with those dimensions. Sometimes your website just isn't set up to be tracked automatically by Google. Sometimes you have iframes on your website that kind of block that ability for automatic event tracking setup. Excuse me. Trying to rush because I know we're getting short on time. There's just so much to talk about. But if you do hit a wall, that's where you would go to Google Tag Manager. And as you know, Tag Manager does have a little bit of a learning curve, but these tips with custom dimensions, these will kind of keep you in that analytics space to where hopefully you don't have to use Tag Manager. But like I said, there is limitations with that.
Yeah. Okay. That's all good stuff to know. Are there any tools our viewers can use to make sure that things are working properly and firing like they should?
Yeah, that's a good question. We, of course, just love the using the Google products. Of course, when we're working in that space, that's where we can use those debugging tools the most. So in GA4, there is what's called the debugging tool. That's in your settings. It's kind of your best friend during setup. You can see the events fire in real time as you're on the website. And then you can, click on that event and find those parameters if there are certain key events that you want to set up on your website based on those parameters. So your debug tool is our preference. And then, of course, if you're working in Tag Manager, they have the Tag Assistant tool, which works very similar as the debug view.
Awesome. And then once those events are set up, Hannah, how do you actually use those?
Good question. Well, if it's a key event, hopefully you're making them for marketing decisions. That's my short answer. But essentially, you're able to pull in those key events in your event section in GA4. That's kind of, like I said, that's where the magic happens, where you make your marketing decisions is based off those key events. Because, like I said, just set up what matters to your business.
Yeah.
And then you can use some cool features in analytics, like the exploration tool that will build a funnel and map your user journey within that. There's a few different reporting tools that you can play around with in analytics, but if you're not a lover of analytics, there is also Looker Studio that's free to use that you can hook up to your analytics. Some of those charts can be a little bit more user friendly.
Yes, love Looker Studio.
Yes, we do.
It's amazing.
I will always plug Looker Studio. So.
Oh my gosh, I know you got me. I love it so much too.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Any final tips or last notes or anything for everybody?
Just kind of, all the things we've been saying along the way. Start with your goals. Define the ones that actually matter to your business and build from there. Use the tools that we've discussed today, the custom dimensions, use debugging tool to really discover some of those and look further at them. And then, test. And we love to, of course, monitor and apply those decisions. So like I said, if you're looking for some help with setting up those custom dimensions, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to provide that list, or just reach out to us with any tracking questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hannah. That was a lot of good
Carrie.
information in 10 minutes or 13, I guess.
13, I know. It's always tough when you have me on the other end. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. The more information, the better.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time, Carrie. It was fun. I love talking about event tracking.
It's amazing. And I'm not seeing any questions or anything in the chat there. So, but like Hannah said, if you need help with anything or have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Absolutely. Awesome.
All
well,
right.
Thanks, everybody.